On August the 15th, 2014, a seemingly ordinary day at Holiday Park, a beloved amusement park tucked away in the quiet German town of Haßloch, turned into a nightmare. A child was killed in a horrifying accident right in front of her family. What followed wasn't just grief and shock, but a drawn-out legal battle filled with unanswered questions, contradictions, and many believe a grave miscarriage of justice. But what exactly happened that day, and why does this case need more attention? Let's talk about it. This is the Spinning Barrels disaster, the death of Amber Walker. Holiday Park first opened its gates in 1971, with a founder who envisioned a German alternative to the theme park experience gaining popularity in the US. It began modestly with a petting zoo and a handful of fairground-style rides, but quickly evolved into a major regional destination. By the 1980s, it was growing into one of the biggest theme park destinations in Germany. By the early 2000s, Holiday Park had made a name for itself among rollercoaster enthusiasts and families alike. One of its most iconic additions came in 2001, Expedition G-Force, a high-speed steel rollercoaster known for its steep first drop and sustained airtime. The ride earned international acclaim, and helping place the park on a global theme park map. In 2010, Holiday Park was sold to Plopsa, the amusement park division of Belgium's Studio 100. The new ownership brought aesthetic changes, cartoon characters, brighter colour schemes, and a broader appeal to young guests. By 2014, the park was enjoying a revival. Attendance was strong, marketing was ambitious, and expansion plans were underway. Families arrived in droves, unaware that not all of the park's attractions had kept pace with growing popularity, or with modern safety expectations. That day, Amber Walker, along with her parents Claudia and Eddie, were visiting the park whilst on vacation. This family vacation would quickly turn into a nightmare after boarding the ride known as the Spinning Barrels. Tucked in a quiet section of Holiday Park stood the Spinning Barrels, a horse breakdance ride installed around 2000. The ride featured multiple spinning gondolas, each shaped like a barrel attached to a rotating platform, which itself spun on a central turntable. As the ride accelerated, each barrel swung and spun independently. The ride had no harnesses or seatbelts, instead riders relied on a simple metal lap bar to secure them in place. On the plus side, this allowed for quick loading and minimal restraint, but it placed significant responsibility on park operations to ensure that riders were seated properly and the ride area was clear before activation. By its 14th year in operation, the ride appeared reliable, but this facade was about to come crashing down. On that day, Amber and her family had been on a few different rides, with her parents accompanying her on them. By all reports, things were going well until they decided to board the Spinning Barrels. Her and her mother lined up until it was their time to go through. However, when the two walked through the gate to find somewhere to sit on the ride started up suddenly without notice. The barrels began to spin and pick up speed as they both yelled at the ride operator to stop. Due to the movement of the platforms, Amber was thrown around between them, causing severe injuries. After being thrown between the platforms, she was essentially ran over by the barrels. The ride was eventually stopped, and an emergency doctor was rushed to the scene. Sadly, Amber sustained such serious head injuries that she was pronounced dead on the scene. All of this happened in front of Amber's mother and her father, who understandably were distraught. She found Amber laying on the ground and later would go on to say, "She stayed here. I didn't dare touch her. I wanted to check her pulse, but I didn't want to cause any more damage." According to her father, after the incident occurred, many of the parkgoers had no idea it even happened. He claimed the area was cordoned off, but the park was not closed down. He said, "They didn't close the park after the accident. Why? If someone dies at a party, other people don't just keep dancing." Sadly, the nightmare for the parents did not end there. What followed was years of anger, confusion, and unanswered questions. The legal process offered little closure, and despite proof of sheer negligence, nothing was ever done. The legal battle over Amber Walker's death was long, painful, and in the end, deeply unsatisfying. Investigations revealed that the gate to the Spinning Barrels ride had been left open, a critical safety failure that allowed Amber and her mother to enter the ride area when they should not have been there. Worse still, the ride started moving suddenly and without warning announcement, violating the park's safety protocols. 3 men were held accountable in relation to these failures: the 22-year-old ride operator who controlled the carousel, the 32-year-old steward responsible for training operators, and the 42-year-old operations manager overseeing safety and operations at the park. The ride operator admitted to starting the ride without the mandatory announcement, explaining he had not been instructed to make it during its training. He denied leaving the gate open, but evidence showed the door had been indeed left unsecured. The other 2 defendants were accused of neglecting their supervisory responsibilities, failing to ensure operators followed safety procedures such as the warning announcement. During the first trial, Claudia and Eddie Walker sat in the courtroom as joint plaintiffs, just meters away from the men they believed were responsible for their daughter's death. Claudia had studied hundreds of pages of technical manuals and inspection records, quoting line by line from blue binders and TUV reports. She asked precise, cutting questions such as who wrote the manual, who trained the operator, and did the microphone work. She told the court, "I definitely see the inadequate controls as a cause of Amber's death." The verdict, when it came however, was bitter. The 22-year-old ride operator was fined €2,400 for negligent homicide. The court ruled he had left the access door open and failed to make the required attention announcement before starting the ride. But his 2 superiors, the steward who trained him and the park's operation manager, were acquitted. The judge admitted they had committed a danger-increasing breach of duty, and that a majority of park employees testified they had never been properly trained on safety announcements. But in his words, "We cannot prove that things would have turned out differently." So in short, the 3 were let off due to lack of proof, which I find absolutely disgraceful. For Claudia and Eddie, it was devastating. Claudia said, "It's simply a blatant injustice. Not just the verdict, but everything that came out. The deeper failures, the lax safety culture and the lack of oversight had been exposed, but not punished." Still, they appealed. In the second trial, the higher regional court re-examined the case. Prosecutors again argued that the superiors had failed in their duty of care. They pointed to widespread negligence, missing safety announcements, ignored warning signs, and a culture of shortcuts had turned deadly. But the court upheld its original acquittals. They ruled that the connection between those systemic failures and Amber's death were not strong enough to be criminally proven. The acquittals became final. There would be no prison time and no further proceedings. It was over. The emotional toll had already shattered the Walkers' home, Claudia and Eddie's marriage ending in divorce. Eddie, a former US soldier, described how the trauma haunts him, saying, "Every day I have that image in my head, all that blood. It's very difficult." Sadly, public attention for this case faded very fast, and the park were never truly brought to justice. Still, Claudia fights on. She went on to study psychology, determined to turn the pain into something useful. She said, "Amber must not have died in vain. I want something to happen at Holiday Park." Sadly, that was the last update I could find. I truly believe this case needs more attention, and I find it crazy how easy the park got let off, despite the findings showing clear negligence. I hope the family is doing better today, and may Amber rest in peace. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, and if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go the extra step to support the channel, maybe consider becoming a member. Let me know what you thought about this case in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.